I have returned to this autumn, at the age of 23. 15 years of marriage, a meticulously crafted scheme, and in the end, I died in the isolation ward of a psychiatric hospital. My body was covered in bloody scratches I had clawed out myself while tied down. I opened my eyes and saw the crystal chandelier on the bedroom ceiling. In this life, I will not be soft-hearted again. I lay still without moving. Memories pierced into my mind like shards of glass, the iron door of the isolation ward, my limbs bound, someone prying open my mouth to force-feed me medicine, the heart monitor letting out a piercing, prolonged beep. In my past life, it wasn't until Preston's third night away from home that I discovered something was wrong with that glass of milk. By then, I had already been drinking it for 3 months. This time, I won't make the same mistake. Take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. Sit up. On the nightstand sits that glass of milk. Preston brings it every night, claiming it helps with sleep. I carry the milk to the windowsill and pour it into the pothose pot. The pothose lets out a faint sizzling sound. The phone rings. The contact name reads husband. Cassandra, Delilah is being discharged from the hospital today. I'm going to pick her up and will be back in the evening. Preston's voice is as gentle as the March wind. Delilah. My stepsister, the orphan my father adopted, the girl I cherished like a real sister for 10 years. In my past life, I didn't learn the truth until their child was 3 years old. Okay, you can go. My voice was so calm it felt foreign even to me. After hanging up, I walked into the walk-in closet. The woman in the mirror was young and thin, but her eyes looked old, as if she had already experienced everything. I changed into a black dress and put on some light makeup. My phone rang again. This time it was my father's company lawyer. Miss, your father is signing the equity transfer agreement at 3 this afternoon. Will you be attending? I'll be there, I said. Before leaving, I caught a glimpse of my eyes in the hallway mirror. Inside them lived a woman who had already lived once before. When Preston opened the door and walked in, I was flipping through a magazine on the coffee table. He froze. Delilah stood beside him, holding his arm, looking like she had just been discharged from the hospital. Sister, I've been discharged from the hospital. Brother said he'd come pick me up, you don't mind, do you? Delilah bit her lip, her eyes glistening with tears. Preston pulled his arm away, walked over, and ruffled my hair. Cassandra, Delilah said she wanted to come home and see you, so I. Not at all. I smiled as I stood up, walked over to Delilah, and took her hand. Delilah, you're my sister. Coming back to your own home is only natural. For a split second, Delilah's expression froze. You'll be staying here from now on. Let me know if you need anything. I patted the back of her hand and turned to Preston. Honey, Delilah just got out of the hospital. Spend more time with her. Preston's expression shifted. I picked up my bag and headed for the door. Where are you going? Preston asked. My dad's company. Something came up. I turned around and gave him a gentle smile. Don't worry, I'll bring back something good for dinner tonight. The moment the door closed, I heard Delilah whisper, Brother, is sister mad at me? Preston said, No, she's just like that. Don't overthink it. I stood outside the door, watching the elevator doors open. A game of who can hold out longer, huh? As the elevator descended, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number. Elliot. My half-brother. All these years, I thought he hated me, and I never reached out to him. The call connected. Hello? The voice on the other end was young, laced with caution. Elliot, it's your sister, I said. 3 o'clock this afternoon, at the cafe downstairs from Dad's company. I have something to tell you. What makes you think I'll come? Because last Thursday night, you checked the company's accounts from 3 years ago and found a transfer of $23 million to 3 overseas accounts, but you couldn't trace where the money went. There was silence on the other end of the line. No one knew about this except Elliot himself. He had looked it up in secret at home, using an old computer that wasn't connected to the internet. How do you know? His voice was very low. I'll tell you when we meet. All right. At 3 in the afternoon, I sat by the window of the cafe waiting for Elliot. He arrived. Dressed in a hoodie, with messy hair, he looked like a college student who had just woken up. But his eyes were sharp and alert. Sit down. I pointed to the chair across from me. Elliot sat down, staring at me. Sis, explain it to me clearly. How did you find out about that money? I didn't answer directly. That 23 million was transferred to 3 accounts, eventually consolidated into a shell company called Honda Trading. The legal representative of this company is Noel, the boyfriend of Delilah's college classmate. Elliot's face completely changed. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. You can investigate in that direction, I said, picking up my coffee cup. But be careful, Noel has a criminal record. Elliot was silent for a full minute. Why are you helping me? He finally asked. Because you're my brother, I said. And because I need you to help me too. What can I do for you? Save Dad's company. I set down my glass. In 3 days, you'll receive a shareholding entrustment agreement drafted by a lawyer. Once you sign it, that 20% stake will nominally go to Preston, but the actual control will remain in our hands. Wasn't Preston's shares transferred directly by Dad? They were transferred directly, but Dad gave him 35%. I looked into Elliot's eyes. Out of that 35%, 20% will be structured as an entrustment. I've already discussed it with Dad. He agreed, but he doesn't know the details. What plan? Let Preston make his own mistakes, and then let him face the consequences. Elliot stared at me for a long time. Sis, you've changed, he said. The old you wouldn't have done this. People change. I stood up and placed the coffee money on the table. The agreement will be sent to you in 3 days. Whether you sign it or not is up to you. I took 2 steps, then turned back. Oh, Elliot. Thank you for bringing flowers to my mom's grave last Wednesday. Elliot froze. He had never told anyone about this. Not even his own mother knew. He watched my retreating figure without saying a word. On the way home, I received a message. It was from Delilah. Sister, thank you for letting me stay. I'll cherish it. Attached was a photo of her and Preston. I replied, as long as Delilah is happy, let Preston spend more time with you from now on. Delilah replied instantly, thank you, sis. You're the best. I tossed my phone into my bag. The taxi had arrived at the entrance of the neighborhood. I paid and got out. The setting sun stretched my shadow long. In the elevator, I ran into Mrs. Beatrice, the neighbor who lives next door. Mrs. Beatrice, I greeted proactively. Cassandra, long time no see. You've been looking a bit off lately, have you been staying up late? Yeah, I haven't been feeling well recently. I rubbed my temples. Sometimes I get heart palpitations at night. Preston says I'm overthinking things. Mrs. Beatrice's expression immediately shifted. You should go see a doctor, she said, patting my hand. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Beatrice. The elevator arrived, and I stepped out, turning to smile at her. By the way, Mrs. Beatrice, your orange cat has been meowing in the hallway at night lately. Is it trying to get out? How did you know? Mrs. Beatrice looked at me in surprise. I was just about to tell you, I'm going to stay at my son's place for a while starting tomorrow, and I've been worried about what to do with the cat. I can take care of it for a few days. I'm not doing much at home anyway. Oh, that would be wonderful. Cassandra, you're such a good kid. I smiled, turned around, and opened the door. When I got home, Delilah was cooking in the kitchen. She was wearing my apron and using my spatula. Preston was sitting on the sofa watching TV, with a fruit platter Delilah had cut placed in front of him. I stood at the entrance for 3 seconds, then walked in with a smile. It smells so good, Delilah, what are you making? Delilah turned her head, a look of surprise on her face. Sister, you're back. I'm making braised pork ribs. Brother said these are his favorite. Is that so? I walked to the kitchen door. Preston never told me. Preston's expression froze for a moment. Delilah quickly said, maybe my brother forgot to tell you. He's just that careless. It's fine. I walked over and patted Delilah on the shoulder. Now that you're here, it's great. From now on, whatever Preston wants to eat, you can make it for him. At dinner, the 3 of us sat at the table. Delilah had made 4 dishes and a soup, all of which were Preston's favorites. Every time she served a dish to Preston, she would say, "Brother, try this." Preston ate to his heart's content. I ate in silence. Sister, why aren't you saying anything? Is the food not to your taste? Delilah asked cautiously. No, it's delicious. I looked up and smiled at her. I was just thinking, Delilah, with your cooking skills, whoever marries you will be truly blessed. Delilah's face turned red, and she lowered her head to eat. I picked up a piece of spare rib and placed it in Preston's bowl. Honey, have some more. Then I put another piece in Delilah's bowl. Delilah, you should eat more too. You just got out of the hospital, you need to replenish your strength. After dinner, I took the initiative to clear the table. Let me do it, sis. You go rest. Delilah rushed to wash the dishes. No need, you go keep Preston company and watch TV. I placed the dishes in the sink and turned on the faucet. As I washed the dishes, I stared at the running water and thought back to my past life. Back then, I washed dishes every day, listening to them laugh and chat in the living room, thinking it was just normal interaction between my sister and my husband. Only later did I realize that what was abnormal was me. I was just too foolish. After washing the dishes, I came out to find Delilah already asleep, leaning against Preston's shoulder. When Preston saw me, he tried to push Delilah away. Don't move, let her sleep, I said softly, draping a blanket over Delilah. She just got out of the hospital, she's weak. The look in Preston's eyes changed. Cassandra, there's really nothing between Delilah and me, he said suddenly. I know, she's my sister, and she's your sister too. What could possibly be between you two? Preston fell silent. Late at night, Preston was asleep. I lay motionless in bed, listening to his breathing gradually even out. At 3 o'clock, I quietly got out of bed, walked into the study, and turned on Preston's computer. The password was his birthday combined with Delilah's birthday. In my past life, it took me 3 years to figure out that pattern. This time, I didn't need to guess. The file transfer progress bar was moving very slowly. I stood by the window, looking out at the city's night view. The transfer completed. I pulled out the USB drive, turned off the computer, and went back to bed. Preston turned over, draping his arm across my waist. I didn't move. He muttered Delilah in his sleep. I slowly moved his arm away, turned over, and stared at the ceiling. 3 days later, Delilah called. Sis, I'm at the mall shopping, and my card won't go through. Can you help me pay? Her voice was choked with tears. I only bought a coat. How much? 38,000. Send me the payment code, I'll pay for you. In the afternoon, Elliot sent a message. Sis, I found it. Noelle's account had direct transactions with Delilah, totaling over 8 million. That Honda trading is fake. The money eventually went into Delilah's personal account. I replied, keep investigating, don't alert her. Elliot, what exactly are you planning? I stared at my phone screen, typed a few words, then deleted them. In the end, I only sent one sentence. Do you trust me? Elliot replied instantly, yes. When I got home that evening, Delilah was twirling in front of the mirror in a new coat. Sister, look, does it look good? Beautiful. I walked over and adjusted her collar for her. Delilah, this dress suits you perfectly. Preston came out of the study, caught sight of Delilah's coat, and frowned. How much did this cost? 38,000, Delilah murmured. My sister paid for it. Preston looked at me. What's wrong? I tilted my head, meeting his gaze. It's nothing, he said. Delilah, thank you, big sister. Delilah nodded obediently. Thank you, big sister. Family doesn't stand on ceremony. A week later, my father signed the equity transfer agreement, transferring 35% of the shares to Preston's name. But not all of them. The contract had been rigged in advance. 20% of that 35% was held on his behalf, with actual control still in the Shin family's hands. Preston didn't know. He treated Delilah to Japanese cuisine at the office to celebrate, 3,800 per person. Delilah posted it on her moments with the caption, "Brother is the best." I was watering the flowers at home and gave her a like. Half a month later, Elliot sent a message. Preston has signed the capital increase and share expansion agreement, using that 20% stake as collateral to borrow $200 million from the bank for a new project. Me, what project? Elliot, a real estate project called Dongqing International, located in the east of the city. It's said to be a key government project, and the plans have already been approved. I looked at this message, and a slow smile crept across my lips. In my past life, this project was indeed listed as a key government project. But later, it was halted due to environmental assessment issues, and Preston suffered heavy losses. By then, however, he had already drained over $100 million from my father's company to fill the gap, so the damage didn't hit him at his core. This time, it's different. I picked up my phone and sent my father a message. Dad, have you talked to Commissioner Zhao about that project in the east of the city? My dad replied, we've talked. He said the environmental assessment will be tough to pass. That piece of land is near a water source protection area, so it's highly likely the approval won't go through. Right now, only Preston thinks the plan has already been approved. Me, does he know you know Commissioner Zhao? My dad, no. He thinks Commissioner Zhao is your Uncle Holloway's connection. Me, good. Don't let him find out. My dad, Cassandra, what exactly are you doing? I stared at the phone screen for a long time. I said, I'm protecting you. My dad didn't reply again. I know he doesn't understand. But that's okay. The day he sees the results, he'll understand. Preston is determined to win the East City International project. He comes home late every day, with the study light on until dawn. Delilah brings him midnight snacks, massages his shoulders, and walks around in front of him in her spaghetti strap nightgown. I see it all. One evening, Preston came home early for a change and sat on the sofa with a sigh. I walked over with a cup of tea and set it in front of him. Honey, is work putting a lot of pressure on you? He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot. It's nothing, I can handle it. Need any help? No, he said curtly, then paused. By the way, has your father mentioned that piece of land east of the city to you lately? No, I tilted my head and thought for a moment. Why? Nothing, he said. Just heard that Commissioner Zhao is quite familiar with him, and I wanted to ask him to help find out some information. Commissioner Zhao from the City Planning Bureau. In the previous life, Preston got in touch with Commissioner Zhao through my father's connections. This time, my father gave Commissioner Zhao a heads up in advance. No matter who Preston approached, they were to say the plan had already been approved. It was a lie. A lie to make Preston believe he had the upper hand. Let me ask Dad for you, I said. Good. Preston's eyes lit up. He thought I had taken the bait. Little did he know, he was the one who had been hooked. A week later, Preston got the so-called inside information. The planning was fine, the environmental assessment was almost through, and the project was solid. He started leveraging. He mortgaged all his assets and borrowed another $50 million from private lending companies, pouring it all into East City International. Elliot sent a message, "Sis, he's gone crazy. A $200 million project, and he took on $300 million in leverage all by himself." Me, so how much debt does he have? Elliot, not counting interest, the principal has already exceeded $300 million. If the project goes south, he'll never be able to pay it back in this lifetime. Me, got it. Elliot, sis, are you waiting for something to happen to him? I didn't reply. I was watering the plants on the balcony. That pot of pothos was thriving. Its leaves were a lush green, far better than that winter in my past life. In my previous life, after Preston cut off all my contact with the outside world, that pothos withered and died. This time, it's outliving everyone. 2 months later. The news broke. The East City International project was halted by the government due to failing the environmental assessment. Reason: the plot of land was near a water source protection area, unsuitable for development. Preston smashed 3 cups in his study. Delilah was crying in the living room. The banks called in their loans, private lending companies came knocking to collect debts, and all assets were frozen. Preston started drinking. Every night he drank himself into a stupor. I took care of him, made him hangover soup, and helped wipe his face. "Cassandra, you're so good to me." He was drunk, slumped on the sofa, his eyes unfocused. "I've wronged you before. I'll make it up to you from now on." "Alright, I'll wait for you to make it up to me," I said with a smile. He fell asleep. I walked into the study and turned on the computer. The final step, it was time to begin. The next day, I went to the Economic Crime Investigation Unit of the Public Security Bureau. Officer Victoria received me. I placed the USB drive on the table. "I want to report a case," I said. "What's the case about?" "Financial fraud, forgery of official documents, loan fraud." Officer Victoria glanced at me. "What is your relationship with the person involved?" "I am Preston's wife," I said. "And also a victim." Officer Victoria turned on the computer and began browsing through the contents of the USB drive. Her expression shifted from calm to serious, and then from serious to grave. "Where did you get these materials?" "From Preston's computer," I said. "I am his wife, and these materials involve assets from my father's company. During the capital increase and share expansion process, he forged government approvals and fraudulently obtained bank loans." "Do you know what this means?" "Yes." I looked into her eyes. "He'll be sentenced." "Aren't you afraid of being implicated yourself?" "I wasn't involved," I said. "All the evidence is here." Officer Victoria fell silent. "I need you to cooperate and give a detailed statement," she said. "All right." By the time I came out of the police station, it was already afternoon. The sunlight was beautiful. I stood at the entrance and took a deep breath. My phone rang. It was Elliot. "Sis, you went to the police station?" "How do you know?" "A friend of mine works over there and saw you." Elliot's voice was a bit tense. "You filed a report?" "Yeah." "Will Preston get arrested?" "Yes." There was a long silence. "Sis," Elliot said, "you've really changed." "I told you, people always change." "You haven't told me yet how you know so much." I looked up at the sky. "Because I've seen it too many times," I said. Elliot didn't press further. He was smart enough to know that some questions shouldn't be asked. "What do you plan to do next?" he asked. "Live a good life," I said. "What needs to end has already ended." Delilah was pregnant. She had conceived before Preston's accident. She knelt before me, crying, and said the child wasn't Preston's. "Sister, I'm too afraid to tell my brother. He'll beat me to death. Please help me, help me." "Whose child is it?" I asked. It's my ex-boyfriend's." She was sobbing uncontrollably, just once, that one time. I never thought I'd get pregnant. Does Preston know? No, he doesn't know. Okay. I crouched down, looking at her. So what do you want to do? I want to get rid of it. She grabbed my hand. Sister, will you come with me? Okay, I said. As I looked at her tear-swollen eyes, I felt no sympathy. In my past life, she used this child to drive me away. She told Preston the baby was his, and he believed her, then forced me to divorce him. This time, I let her make her own choice. She chose to lie. For in the afternoon, the time Preston goes to the garden for a smoke every day. I walked to the balcony, placed the pot of green ivy on the railing, and pretended to water the plants. Delilah's pregnancy test was still in her bag. I had seen it last night. Delilah, I called into the house, your package is here. I left it on the balcony. Delilah ran out of the house, holding a pregnancy test in her hand. Sis, don't shout, she said in a low voice, then glanced downward. Preston stood in the garden, a cigarette between his fingers, looking up at us. His hand froze midair. Delilah's face went pale. Sis, did brother see it? I don't know, I said. But he really does seem to be looking this way. I wasn't lying. I just timed it right. When Preston stormed up the stairs, I was in the living room watching TV. He pushed the door open, his eyes red-rimmed. Cassandra. Did you know Delilah is pregnant? Why didn't you tell me? I only found out yesterday, I said. Is the child mine? Ask her. Delilah rushed out of the room, crying and wrapping her arms around Preston's waist. Brother, the child is yours, it really is yours. Sister is jealous of me, she wants to harm me. Preston looked at Delilah, then at me. Then let's do a paternity test, I said. I looked at Delilah. Her body stiffened for a moment. Fine, Preston said. Let's do it. The next day, at the hospital. Blood drawn, tests run, waiting for results. Delilah kept crying, Preston kept smoking, and I kept looking at my phone. The results came out. The child was Preston's. When the doctor handed the report to Preston, his face relaxed. Delilah threw herself into his arms, crying even louder, Brother, I told you it was yours, I told you it was. Preston held her, patting her on the back. Then he turned to look at me. Cassandra, what do you have to say for yourself? I looked at him, then at Delilah. Delilah's gaze flickered for a moment. But only for a moment. Congratulations, I said. Then I picked up my bag and walked out of the hospital. A week later, Preston was taken away from his doorstep. That morning, just as he was about to leave for the office, 2 men in uniform stood at the door and showed their badges. Preston, right? Suspected of financial fraud, document forgery, and loan fraud. Please come with us. Preston's face turned pale. He turned to look at me. Cassandra, was it you? I said nothing. Was it you? The bailiff dragged him away. His shouts echoed down the hallway until the elevator doors closed, swallowing all sound. Delilah stood in the living room, her face deathly pale. Her belly was already slightly swollen. Sister. Her voice trembled. Delilah, I walked over and looked into her eyes. I don't blame you for the child. She froze. But the company, you owe me an explanation. What company matters? Her voice trembled even more. I pulled a stack of documents from my bag and placed them on the coffee table. Honda Trading's transfer records, Noel's testimony, Delilah's private account statements. 23 million. Every single transaction, crystal clear. Delilah collapsed to the floor. Sister, I was wrong. Tears streamed down her face. It was Preston who made me do it, he forced me. When you signed, he wasn't forcing you. I'll give you two choices, I said. First, turn yourself in, confess everything you know, and seek leniency. Second, I hand these documents over to the Economic Crime Investigation Unit, and you wait for them to come for you. Delilah stared at the stack of documents, her lips trembling. Sis, please let me off. I'm pregnant, I can't go to jail. You're pregnant, that's why I'm giving you a choice. I crouched down, looking into her eyes. Go ahead. Before 5 o'clock this afternoon. I stood up, picked up my bag, and walked out of the house. At 4 p.m., Delilah sent me a message. Sister, I turned myself in. I'm sorry. I put down my phone and looked out the window. The sunlight was beautiful. I remembered the previous life, when Delilah stood before me and said with a smile, Sister, Preston said that you are the one who is unnecessary. It was then that I realized, 10 years of sisterhood meant nothing in her eyes. This time, she finally said she was sorry. Though it was already too late. But at least, she said it. Preston was sentenced to 12 years. The charges included financial fraud, forgery of official documents, and loan fraud, with multiple offenses combined. On the day of the trial, I sat in the gallery. He wore an orange prison uniform, his head shaved, his face as lifeless as death itself. When the judge pronounced the verdict, he suddenly turned his head to look at me. Cassandra, you did this to me. I didn't speak. You were the one who provided that evidence. The presiding judge tapped the gavel. The defendant, please remain quiet. The bailiff took Preston away. As he passed by me, he stopped and lowered his voice, saying, Cassandra, I won't let you off. I looked at him and smiled. Come out first, then we'll talk. Delilah was sentenced to 3 years in prison, suspended for 5 years. Because she turned herself in and was pregnant, the court showed leniency. As I walked out of the courthouse, I saw her standing at the entrance, a man by her side. He was tall and thin, wearing glasses, and looked like an honest man. It was that ex-boyfriend. Delilah saw me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something. I didn't wait for her to speak, I turned and walked away. Her voice came from behind me, Sister. I didn't look back. 6 months later, I received a postcard. It was sent from a small town in the south. On it was written, Sister, I married him, and we had a child, a boy. We opened a small shop in the town, and life is manageable. Thank you for letting me turn myself in back then, otherwise, I would have lived in fear for the rest of my life. Below is Delilah's signature. I read the postcard twice and put it in the drawer. One autumn evening, I went to visit Preston in prison. Through the glass, he had grown much thinner, and half his hair had turned white. What are you doing here? His voice was cold. Just came to see you, I said. Had your fill of staring? Then get lost. I didn't leave. Preston, I picked up the phone, do you know why you're here? He stared at me, the hatred in his eyes nearly spilling through the glass. Because you were too greedy, I said. If you had borrowed 100 million less for that piece of land east of the city, there would still be room to maneuver. But you asked for 200 million. So what? Not really. I smiled. I just wanted to tell you that it wasn't me who put you in here, it was yourself. Bullshit. The contract you signed, the loan you took out, the false accounts you made, I said, word by word. Every single thing was your own choice. Preston fell silent. I didn't force you to do anything. I stood up. I just didn't stop you. Cassandra. I put down the phone and turned away. Behind me came the sound of him smashing glass, stopped by the prison guard. I didn't look back. As I walked out of the prison gates, the sunlight was beautiful. Elliot was waiting for me in the car. Sis, what did you say to him? Nothing. I fastened my seatbelt. Let's go. Where to? Go home. The car merged onto the highway, trees receding on both sides. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. The sunlight streamed through the car window, warming my face. I thought of myself from many years ago, the one who died in the mental hospital. If she could see today, she would probably say one thing. Cassandra, you finally learned. Learn what? Learn to be kinder to yourself. When I got home, it was already dark. I opened the door, and the house felt empty. Back when Preston was here, this place always seemed cramped. Now that he's gone, it feels spacious instead. I changed my shoes, walked into the kitchen, and cooked myself a bowl of noodles. On the balcony, the pothose plant was thriving. In my past life, it had withered and died. In this life, it has accompanied me through all the difficult days. I carried the noodles over and sat down on the balcony chair. The city lights spread out beneath me, the wind strong, whipping my hair into a mess. I took the first bite of noodles and found them a bit salty. Probably because tears had fallen into them. It's not sadness. It's because I can finally have a proper meal. No more worrying about someone putting something in my milk, no more fear of never waking up after falling asleep, no more lying awake through every long night waiting for dawn. I put down my chopsticks and gazed at the distant sky. This life, it's different now.